Frank Beard, the longtime drummer of ZZ Top and one of the most recognizable rhythm players in rock history, has died at the age of 77. Beard died on August 17, 2026, at his ranch in Richmond, Texas, while receiving hospice care with family members at his side. The news was confirmed by ZZ Top and reported by CBS News. At this time, his official cause of death has not been publicly disclosed, so claims online naming a specific illness or medical condition should be treated with caution. Before we get into Frank Beard's remarkable life, his family, his career, and what we actually know about his final days, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we bring you carefully researched celebrity and entertainment stories with the facts separated from the rumors. Frank Lee Beard was born June 11, 1949, in Frankston, Texas. And there is something almost amusing about his name. Frank Beard was a one member of ZZ Top who famously did not have the enormous beard that became part of the band's visual identity. But behind that irony was a musician who became absolutely essential to the group's sound. Beard wasn't simply the drummer who happened to join ZZ Top. He was part of the story that helped create the classic lineup in the first place. Before ZZ Top, he played in several Texas area bands, including the Cellar Dwellers, the Warlocks, the Hustlers, and American Blues, where he performed with Dusty Hill. And this is one of the most important details about his early career. Beard helped connect Billy Gibbons with Dusty Hill. That meeting eventually produced a trio that became one of the most durable combinations in rock history. Beard, Gibbons, and Hill began their legendary run around the end of the 1960s and early 1970s. What followed was extraordinary. ZZ Top developed a sound that was instantly recognizable. Blues, hard rock, Texas boogie, and an almost hypnotic groove. And Frank Beard's drumming was a huge reason the music worked. He wasn't necessarily the kind of drummer who needed to dominate every song with flashy solos. His strength was groove, timing, and consistency. In my opinion, that is actually what makes Beard's legacy so impressive. Some drummers become famous because they constantly demand your attention. Frank Beard became famous because he knew exactly when not to demand it. His playing gave Billy Gibbons guitar room to breathe and gave Dusty Hill's bass the foundation it needed. That chemistry helped make ZZ Top sound bigger than three musicians on a stage. Then came the album that transformed the band's career, Eliminator. Released in 1983, the album became one of ZZ Top's defining achievements. Songs connected to the album, including Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man and Legs, helped turn the band into an MTV-era phenomenon. The album ultimately achieved diamond certification in the United States, representing more than 10 million units. But the biggest achievement wasn't just one successful album. Frank Beard spent more than 5 decades inside the same musical institution. ZZ Top was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004, recognizing a career that had already crossed multiple generations of rock fans. And perhaps the most remarkable part is that Beard remained with the group through enormous changes in the music business, from vinyl records and FM radio to MTV, CDs, digital downloads, and streaming. Then came another heartbreaking chapter. Dusty Hill died in 2021 at the age of 72. Hill had been Beard's rhythm section partner for decades, and his death could have marked the end of the classic ZZ Top story. Instead, the band continued with Elwood Francis on bass, following Hill's wishes. Frank Beard, however, remained the final link between the band's original classic lineup and its continuing legacy. In the weeks before his death, there were already worrying signs about his health. ZZ Top canceled its August 5, 2026 Hollywood Bowl performance, with reports later identifying health issues affecting Beard. Michael Monaghan subsequently filled in on drums, while Beard stepped away from the tour. Now, following his death, ZZ Top has canceled upcoming performances in Salt Lake City and Colorado Springs. The band says it plans to continue its tour with performances at Austin City Limits, a place that had special significance for Beard. But let's be very clear about his cause of death. We do not currently have a confirmed public cause of death. The confirmed information is that Beard was in hospice care at his Texas ranch when he died, surrounded by family. Until his family, representatives, or medical authorities provide additional information, it would be irresponsible to turn speculation about his health into a definite cause of death. And what about his family? Frank Beard was married to Debbie Meredith. The couple married in 1982 and had 3 children together. Beard had previously been married to Catherine Alexander from 1978 until their divorce in 1981. He generally maintained a much more private family life than the larger-than-life ZZ Top image might suggest. That privacy is important to remember now. Frank Beard spent decades performing in front of millions of people, but that doesn't mean every detail of his family's life belongs to the public. There was also a difficult period in Beard's personal history. During the height of ZZ Top's success in the 1970s, he struggled with drug addiction and eventually entered rehabilitation. He later spoke openly about that chapter of his life and expressed regret about the impact it had on his relationships and finances. I think that part of his story matters because it shows there was much more to Frank Beard than the sunglasses, the cars, the rock star lifestyle, and the jokes about his name. He was someone who experienced extraordinary success, made mistakes, confronted personal problems, and continued working for decades afterward. As for his net worth, there is no publicly audited figure that can establish exactly how much Frank Beard was worth at the time of his death. Celebrity wealth publications have commonly estimated his fortune at around $50 million, largely based on his decades of recording, touring, and business activity with ZZ Top. That figure should be viewed as an estimate, not an official financial disclosure. And when you look at what Frank Beard accomplished, the number almost becomes secondary. He helped build one of America's most distinctive rock bands. He played on albums that sold millions. He helped create the rhythm section behind songs that became cultural landmarks. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he remained behind the drum kit for ZZ Top for roughly 56 years. To me, Frank Beard's greatest achievement wasn't simply surviving in rock music for more than half a century. It was maintaining the chemistry of a band whose identity was built on 3 musicians working together so closely that separating their individual contributions was almost impossible. Billy Gibbons provided the guitar and vocals. Dusty Hill provided the bass and vocals. Frank Beard provided the heartbeat. And when you listen back to ZZ Top now, especially those classic recordings, that heartbeat is still there. Frank Beard may have been the least visually obvious member of ZZ Top, but musically, he was impossible to overlook. His death marks another enormous loss for classic rock, and more importantly, the end of an era that began when 3 Texas musicians created something that somehow remained relevant for generations. Billy Gibbons described Beard as a great friend and collaborator, and praised his innovative drumming and his importance to the band's signature backbeat. Those words capture the legacy better than almost anything else. Frank Beard wasn't just a drummer in ZZ Top. He was part of the sound of ZZ Top. And while the band may continue, there is no replacing the history that Frank Beard carried behind that drum kit for more than 5 decades. Rest in peace, Frank Beard, a Texas original, a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and a heartbeat behind one of rock's most enduring bands. And as more official information becomes available about his death, especially regarding the cause, the responsible thing is to wait for confirmed information rather than repeat speculation.